I was driving in my car yesterday, and we're talking about all these songs like Dust in the Wind today, and I just thought about contentment, and I realized that if I have great contentment in my life, God gave me that, but it revolves around two things. I got a good woman, so get a good woman. I got something to do every day, so get some while to do. Something you put your heart in, and then take big chances for God and just let it plays out, man. God, a good woman, and something worthy to do. That's what it's all about to me.
Jim, there's a song in there. It hasn't been written yet, but that's a song right there. God, a good woman, and a good purpose. Wow. Hey, my name is Steve Hinton, and I serve as a pastor and author.
And I'm your co-host, Matthias. I serve as a personal trainer and a volunteer at my local church.
We want to welcome you to The Man Identity, a podcast that is dedicated to calling up young men into purposeful manhood, which is ultimately found in Jesus Christ and being made in the image of God.
In a culture that is often deliberately set against young men, we're here to intentionally build hope, clarity, and strength into the hearts of these men who are searching for purpose. Together, we will face tough issues head on, throw down some weekly challenges, and have some fun along the way.
Because solid manhood is not automatic, but rather it's a choice. We're here to walk alongside you and encourage you to live out your authentic identity in being made in the image of God for a purpose larger than you have ever imagined.
So join us now for another episode of The Man Identity.
Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Man Identity. This is number 3, and I'm excited. Hey, everybody. We are at almost 100 downloads, at least what we see on Buzzsprout.
And almost 15 subscribers.
Okay. On what? YouTube or
on
what?
YouTube, yeah. On
Okay.
YouTube.
So that is growing. And hey, out there world, we just need 2 or 3 more of you to subscribe to Apple or whatever, and we will be over 100. Hey, Matthias, we are remote with each other this evening. You are in your studio. What
I am.
Tell the audience, what do you do, man? I mean, this is like your moonlighting job.
Yeah, so I stream on YouTube. I play a game called Rocket League. I'm branching out to some other things, but for the last few years, I've played Rocket League. But yeah, this is my studio / home gym. I mean, there's not much equipment in here yet. I got a little cross back there, a little back camera. I have a bench behind me and some mirrors and some adjustable dumbbells. So not much in the way of gym equipment yet, but we're getting there.
Matthias, if there's somebody out there who does understand this gaming at a level higher than me, and they wanted to take you on, or they wanted to find you, where would they find you?
They could find me. So my gaming channel / whatever channel it is now is Dunder Whiffin, Dunder Whiffin, like whiffing the ball. so that's where you can find me if you want to come hang out with me and watch the stream. So
okay. Well, we want to start out with a couple of laughs this week, and that was the intention. I made the comment last week that even though there were some serious topics I wanted to get to, I wanted us to just have some fun as well. And I would see that throughout the course of The Man Identity, that sometimes we just pull over and we just do something fun. Now, before that, I do want to pause for a moment. Something happened last week. A lot of people are aware of that. And I actually have my own personal lesson on that as well. Last week, I was up in Dallas for a men's discipleship forum, and I got up there and jumped online, and I saw that Charlie Kirk had been assassinated. And immediately I had some emotions. One emotion was somberness, disbelief. That grew pretty quickly to some anger.
yeah.
Because it's clear there's a lot of hatred in our country, and it's not coming from the people who are being targeted for being the most hateful. Now, let me just pause right there and bring it into the lesson immediately. And that's part of my job as a pastor preaching, is that I got to preach to myself. Immediately, Matthias, I thought about our very first episode and the way it started out, a quote quoting or reading that poem from Rudyard Kipling. And that line that says, if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. Now, to me, that immediately also ties back to one of my favorite passages in Scripture, 2 Timothy chapter 4, where the Apostle Paul is giving a charge and wisdom to the young evangelist Timothy, his protege. And chapter 4, he picks up with this challenge, and then things are going to be tough. And then in verse 5, he says, but you keep your head in all situations. And as everything unfolded, and I was starting to get a bit angry, and even last night, I got a correspondence with a guy that was trashing Charlie Kirk. And I thought, well, my goodness, A, you're wrong. B, even if you were right, that means it's okay. He was assassinated. And I had to check myself again. What is the point? To keep your head. That so many of the issues we are dealing with today is because people have knee-jerk reactions. People don't think through things. They just need to calm down. So that was the lesson. And part of the challenge out of this is to, I mean, you are smart men. And, you know, maybe we got some ladies listening to us as well. You're smart people. When you hear things, ask questions, humbly ask questions, ask who said that? Did they really say that? Where did it come from? Was that in the right context? You know, ask questions instead of simply believing the first thing that people tell you or the media tell you. So anyway, just felt like a lot of people are thinking about that. So I wanted to get that out of the way. Okay, back to where we're at. Matthias, what's the title for our episode today?
It's 4 older wise guys in classic rock. Something along those lines. We'll find out when we post it.
Something along those lines. Old is relative. I'm older than you. The 3 guests that we have today are older than me. I love these men, and classic rock. It's into, you know, a guy. It's interesting because I wanted us again to have something where we can just pause and talk about some fun things and some in application without having to get too deep. So we're going to talk about just classic rock stories over the years, but there are some challenges at the end. We're always going to have challenges, but thinking about who we've got tonight, the guy that I've known the longest, Robert Tippett. He was a couple of years ahead of me at Ozark Christian College. He works for Mark Men for Christ. He was in the worked for Dell for a long time. He is a church planter. We have all these show notes at the end as well. But I've known Robert for a long time. And then Leo Lopez. Leo Lopez has got to be one of the most encouraging people I know. And I met Leo up in Indiana. Part of his history, he was actually a DJ for a while. So he understands music. And then another friend, very wise man up in Canada, the Toronto, Canada area, who is a pastor, a church planter. And it's interesting to hear the stories of these guys, that they love Jesus, and the beauty of how their stories have these connections that happened in their lives in relationship to music. And however you cut it, music is a part of our lives. And that's actually a beautiful thing, that God gave us ears. God gave us the ability to experience music, experience the lyrics. Some lyrics are bad, some lyrics are good. And it's just a fun episode.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because music, although the medium in which music has come through is changed dramatically over, you know, the last few decades. I think it's interesting to see how in every generation, music still impacts people to varying degrees and just different parts of music. And everybody can look back at some point in their life and see the importance that music played or how impactful it was to them at a certain time, you know?
Well, even if you go back to you think about the Bible, you think about King David, and we think about King David, he's the mighty warrior. He was the faithful man, the one who stood up when everybody was running away and panicking and took down Goliath. He's also the man that wrote psalms, that sang praises to God, that played the harp. So music was there, and my country western fans will hate me, but I always joke that God created music, Satan tried it, and then country western was the result of that. And
I
we're
can,
not talking about that today.
I was gonna say I
Classic
can hop on that train. Well, all right. So you said there's Leo, Robert, and Jeff, right?
And Jim.
And Jim. Okay.
Toon.
Jim
And we've
Toon.
got their information in the show notes.
Yeah, and his last name's Toon, right?
Exactly.
Okay,
and
so it fits perfectly.
And I refer to him as the Toon Man. I appreciate these guys immensely, and they know more of the subject than I do, and that's why I was thrilled to bring them into the conversation.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing what they have to say. Hopefully the viewers are looking forward to it. Let's see what these four older wise guys have to say about music.
Well, man, I cannot thank you enough for getting together with me this afternoon. It's interesting. This past summer, when I was just kind of outlining the first season of The Man Identity, I knew we needed to do this episode, and you three men immediately came to mind. I mean, I had some other older guys, some other older wise guys that I thought can maybe fit in. But it was kind of like, no, I got to get you three first. And, they were the standby. You are the first show, the first cast. So I want to thank you for being here today. My goodness, we're talking about classic rock. We're not talking about country. We're talking about classic rock.
Could you have chosen a smaller topic, please? I mean, classic rock is huge. It's huge. It's a big genre.
It is huge. And here's what's interesting. A few years ago, Debbie and I took a cruise. We took a cruise, and I never would have wanted to do one, but I like them now because nobody can get you out in the open. But they did this game. They did this game down in the main lobby. Classic rock. Who can recognize the songs? And Debbie notices that I'm always quoting lyrics, and I do it. So I go down there. She's with me, so I participate. One of those deals where the guy he'll play like a fraction of a song, a lyric, and you got to figure out who, write it down, and then you get bonus points if you put the album, all that sort of stuff. And I thought I was going to do pretty good. And I probably, if you were scoring this, I probably got a D. And there were other guys that they just knew everything. And I thought, you know what? Debbie thinks I'm pretty good, and I think I got a D. And you men, I just know you men just bury me, and you would be A's all the way. So I kind of feel like Jim and Leo and Robert that I'm kind of facilitating, and you men are going to do the real work here. But let me ask you this question, guys. So the man identity. Ultimately, we want young men to realize that their identity comes from being in Christ. So we're thinking about Christ. We're thinking about God. And the reality is that there's a whole lot of classic rock, most of it out there, that has nothing to do with God, at least intentionally. But I guess the question is kind of twofold. Is there any theological weight in any classic rock, even if the authors, the musicians did not intend that to be so? And then because some people think if you're a Christian, you can't listen to classic rock. So I know that's kind of two questions, but how would you tackle those two questions?
I would say most definitely, because I know a lot of rock that there's definitely a message in there. And I believe, some of it was intentional, some of it wasn't, but there's a lot there, a lot. Looking at through the years of the music. Yes.
Yeah, I would agree. The folks who take that tact of you need to avoid this, the messages are not good, et cetera, I don't think have actually sat and read the Bible, and I don't think that they've spent any time in the Psalms at all. Because almost all the messages that I go through my old rock music and hear are like, yeah, David said that over here in Psalm such and such. He said the exact same thing, And so it's like, it's like you have an unfortunate religious view of your faith, as opposed to a faithful view of your religion.
Mm.
And you're missing out. So
Yeah, I think 60s, the 70s, and the 80s, and that I think it's Glenn Scrivener talks about the water we swim in, how it is so saturated by Christendom, or that Western civilization is completely permeated by it. And so there's no doubt in my mind that the music of the 60s, 70s, and 80s reflects a culture that still had an underlying persuasion, or was colored somewhat by church, by the gospel, by the residue of that Christian story. That's changing. But so I think very, very much
Jim,
so. And
Jim, I think you're spot on with that, because not only was it underlying their philosophy, and it would surface in their lyrics, but it would also demonstrate often that they're trying to run away from their religion right into the hands of God is what they're seeking. They're looking for the God who isn't in the religion. And you mentioned earlier, before we started the show, Steve, you mentioned Billy Joel.
Yeah, the Piano Man.
A number of his songs, right? A number of his songs are that way. There's a new documentary out on his career. It's a 2-parter. I think it's on Netflix. It's really good. I think he's still looking for God. At 78 years old, I think he's still looking for God. But you hear it in his lyrics all the way through. His song was banned by the Catholic Church. Only the Good Die Young was banned by the Catholic Church. It shot it right up to #1 on the charts. And he sent a letter to the Archdiocese of St. Louis and said, "Please ban my next song."
Well, I think of the Piano Man, and I love that line. They're sharing a drink called loneliness, but it's better than drinking alone. And to me, that just speaks into the primal Genesis 1, 2, and 3 of who we are, of human beings that were created for relationship. And somehow we know that. I mean, it reminds me of a sitcom in the 70s or 80s called Cheers. A place where everybody knows your name, that deep inside of us, we're longing for community. Ultimately, we need to know that comes from God, but our core is longing for something. So here you have these people. It's just a reality statement about the world we live in, that people long for community, even if they're drinking, it's better than drinking alone.
Yeah. I think the classic rock reflects that. I think it reflects a coming of age in the West of sorts, and some of it is so rebellious and angry. Not that punk rock rage type of anger, but
right.
Like we expected something that life didn't deliver to us, that thought the dream promised, and we find ourselves with this ache, and I didn't think it was going to work that way. And it launches a discovery, and I think it can lead to a realization that the search is for God, or like Billy Joel, that example, maybe still not knowing that that's the missing piece.
That was interesting to hear you say coming of age, Jim, and also you're from Canada, so a little tiny bit of different perspective. But I'm thinking, for example, the music of the 30s, 40s, and 50s, and then you get into the 60s, and some of it, like the Byrds or the Mamas and the Papas, they may mention church, but there's a lot of it it's just more maybe dark or searching. It's not this happiness. There's a searchingness to a lot of it.
Yeah, even the early Beatles songs.
Yes,
were melodic. They were filled with joy, hope. They were love, and yeah. And
then it, especially when John Lennon got out on his own.
Right.
So for my mind, maybe balance is, and I think a balance is a big word in the man identity. Not going to the extremes, because at least in my experience, too much of classic rock is bad. when I was I came into Pink Floyd my sophomore year in high school, and I was hooked. I loved it. But if you know anything about Pink Floyd, it is so stinking depressing, and so that's not good. But you can get legalistic on the other hand if you just push all this stuff aside. And also, when you think about music in general, everybody would say, "Hey, Mozart is good. Mozart is good." I'm not a big Mozart historian. I would say
he would have been a lead guitar player today.
He would have been a lead guitar player, yeah. But I don't. What little I know of Mozart, I don't look at Mozart and go, "Oh, that's a godly man." He wasn't like Bach at all. So maybe balance is in this. So let me ask you guys this question. Can you think back and whether it's elementary school, junior high, whatever, what was the first album, the very first album that you bought with your own money? For me, it was The Dark Side of the Moon, Pink Floyd. That was the first one that I purposely went out and said, I'm going to get this album with my own money. What about you guys? What's your story there?
I'll go ahead and jump in on this. There was a lot of albums that I had bought at a very young age, but the one that was very significant was an album that nobody had and most people hadn't heard of, and it was by AC/DC, and it was the High Voltage British Import. And the key there was the British import,
right.
And nobody had it. And I went, and the local the store there, it was right by our house, and had saved money for it and got it, ordered it, took a few weeks to get in. And then when it happened, it was like, everybody was like, "Oh man, wow, this is great." Everybody's coming over and we're just, jamming to this. And there was some stuff on there that wasn't on the American version, which really, was great. So, yeah, that was one that I vividly remember at a young age getting. It was in the late 70s. So
record stores were great. That's something that, a lot of the younger guys won't get to experience in the way, but I could kill hours in the. I think the first record I bought, I've been over at my grandmother's house, and it was a hot summer day, and somebody was the song had been already out probably for a decade or more by then, but somebody was parked out front washing their convertible with "I Want to Hold Your Hand" playing by the Beatles. Bass, ba-na-na-na-na. And it was like he really had the bass up. And cool song. And I went to the Kmart, and with my own money, I bought the Double Red album. So not the song.
I had that.
Beatles, I think, was 1963 to 66. And took that home, pour out the grooves on it.
Jim, I had that, and not that I bought it. I was born in 69, so I'm the pup in this group here. But what happened was I went into the Lost and Found, and maybe someone would debate my ethics on this, but it was in the Lost and Found. It was in the Lost and Found in the band room, and there was the red and the blue Beatles double album, and it's like it's there. It's there. No one's getting it. And then also Pink Floyd, The Wall, the double album. These were the albums, but that's where I got it. And I had heard of Pink Floyd and I'd heard of the Beatles, but I had it. And it's funny. I want to hold your hand, Jim. Every now and then I will find that YouTube, and I will, kind of flirt with my wife, and I'll send her the clip from the Beatles, "I Want to Hold Your Hand," just to kind of flirt with my wife on that one.
Yeah. So I came in the side door on this one. I did not come in the front door on this one. I was listening to anything top 40 pop radio, rock and roll that I could get my hands on the radio. But when I was going to spend my own money, I was going to spend money on things that I wanted to listen to that you couldn't get over the air. And so my first album was actually a Christian contemporary album by the Imperials, called One More Song for You. And the reason I went that direction is because I wouldn't have been able to listen to it any other way. And so that's why I spent my money there. It was a while before I started buying. It was probably the CD era before I actually started buying up. Well, that's not true, because I had a lot of cassettes too, that I purchased over the years. But it took a while for me to start buying things that I could easily turn on the radio and flip a channel and probably find.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I had some vinyl. I had a little bit of vinyl. So.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for that vinyl. I'm waiting
for that digital 8-track era to show up. So
I had a lot of 8 tracks. A lot of 8 tracks too.
Well, let me ask you, let's do this. Top 10 songs, and you may not have top 10, and guys, that's tough. It's interesting. Okay, what are my top 10 songs? And then you got to say, okay, what kind of genre? Are we talking music? Are we talking lyrics? Are we talking something fun? Jim, you'll appreciate this from Canada, but this is not in my top 10, but this shows how complicated it is. There's this long song, The Wreck, the Edmund Fitzgerald. I can't remember, did it go down on the Canadian side or the American side? But, it's one of those songs that it's classic. There's a story to it, but, I know it, but I'm not sure it's in my top 10. So I know, top 10, it's a hard question, and we may not get 10 each, but why don't we go around? Jim, you're the old boy from Canada. Why don't you go, and then Leo, and then Robert, and then I'll kind of, tag along on your coattails on the end, because I'm the young boy here.
All right. Okay. So reporting from the 51st state here. Try not to take it seriously, because it's only rock and roll. Okay. Here's a few. And I deliberately did not include some of my favorite Canadian artists, simply because I realized that they will be obscure, maybe more obscure than
obscured by clouds.
We're here, yeah. But you know
That's
what?
A Pink Floyd reference.
Yes, yeah. Gordon Lightfoot influenced me a great deal. I didn't include Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald or Sundown, or If You Could Read. But I've got a couple of here that the very first one I'm going to talk about a little bit is I'll Be Back by the Beatles. It's in there. It's on the list because it's perfect. That's all. It's not particularly astute. It's somewhere in the crossover. It's off the Rubber Soul album, which would also be my Desert Island album. Because it's moving, like I said, from the yeah into more of a Dylan-esque, folksy vibe. Guitars ring, like there's a real acoustic vibe on it. It might be some of George Harrison's best guitar work, not that he would normally fall into like the top 50 even, but it's crisp, it's clean. John's vocals are pure John. And at that point in time, they were starting to do things in the studio that were clever, but it didn't get too clever. But just multiple tracks of the guitars in it. The layers in this song are fantastic, and I like it. And it's in here because when I was thinking about it, guys, I just thought, what's a song I play a lot?
Okay.
One of them. This would not go back. My next one wouldn't go back to perhaps the classic era, although the band is. And High Hopes by Pink Floyd. Man, so I think that album was 1984, The Division Bell. Even that line, the ringing of the division bell has begun. There's something ominous about it. And I think people have, whether it was the bomb, the Cold War, or whether it's events right into modernity now, people are feeling a sense of the ominous, or, that the other shoe's about to drop. Something's going to happen. And this song in particular, it talks about Steve, you mentioned relating things from our lives, from our era. And there's the lyric in it, beyond the horizon of the place we lived when we were young, in a world of magnets and miracles. And so I grew up in an era when everything was going to be fixed, like everything was going to be great. We were told, like it was the magic of magnets, miracles, chemistry. We would solve every problem. I don't know if you did this in the USA, but at Halloween when we went trick or treat, we had these little orange UNICEF boxes, and we would collect money to give to UNICEF.
Okay, yeah.
We were told that, if you just educate, vaccinate, the world, then everything will be great. And it didn't happen. But there was this magic that we believed. As modernity emerged, scientific wonders and a man on the moon and all of that. And so this song is kind of nostalgic, but it's also very wistful, and it speaks to me. And for decades, I don't know if you know this, Steve, but for decades, they finished every concert with that song, after 1994. Should I keep going? I won't spend as long on all of them.
Go ahead. Go ahead. You're the old man here. We need to give you deference.
Okay, so you'll understand if I get scrambled, huh? Okay. Now, this is not, who would call this classic rock? I don't know. But it's Wichita Lineman by Glenn Campbell.
That's classic rock. It's classic rock.
And again,
it wins.
It's a perfect song.
Yeah.
Jimmy Webb wrote it. I Need You. And I think that what you're going to hear in a lot of my selections it's the music and the lyrics. I don't think, with the exception of one or two, there's a single song in here that isn't lyrically profound. And Jimmy Webb, when he wrote it, said he was driving, down a route and saw a lineman looking on the wires, and it just came into his head. Here's this ordinary guy, right? He's nobody anybody thinks about. Just a ordinary man in the world, and yet he's got in his head these deep longings, and this great aching and longing in the heart of this ordinary lineman. I do more than want you, and I want you for all time. The Wichita Lineman is still on the line. And what strikes me about it is the capacity that we all have for these big feelings. And God put those in us. And I think deep down,
it's the man identity. There's something in us.
Everybody gets that, Everybody gets that. You hear that, and you're the guy. Dust in the Wind was on my list, but I'm going to defer that, to Robert when we get there. House of the Rising Sun by the Animals. So that was a folk song.
They grabbed it, and it made it really popular.
Yeah. And it sounds like CCR.
I could have had CCR on the list. Like it's a little bit dirty.
Yeah.
I don't mean that in a suggestive way. It's raw, man.
Yeah.
And emotional.
The vocals are so raw. And there's an original video that went with it. It was back, way before the
music video area,
much MTV days. But and they look like your British, Northern England working class guys, which a lot of rock and roll came out of. And they took a folk song and turned it into a blues song. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's fabulous. It just works.
It's a great one.
I'd love to change the world by a band called 10 Years After. Mm-hmm. I don't know. You know that one? But
I've heard it. It's not actually. I don't like it, but you got the microphone now, so I'll shut up.
Yeah, all right. Don't like it. Well, I'm going to assume you don't like it because he says, I don't know what to do, so I'll leave it up to you. And You know, it's again, it's a product of the '60s. Everywhere is freaks, dykes, and fairies. Tell me where is sanity, and that I'd love to change the world, but I don't know what to do. So I'll leave it up to you, and take what you want out of those lyrics. But I think, haven't we all grown up? I don't think this is just novel for guys our age. I think it's true of your younger audience, Steve. We've all grown up in a time where, we've been told, hey, you can change the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Be it Michael Jackson, be it, those songs, yeah, and it's not so easily done. The world stays broken, and frustration builds, and we turn away from the solution instead of running to it.
Right.
So I like that, but there's a guitar riff in it. Just to push back on you, Steve, a little bit. There is an insane guitar that makes it worthwhile, if not for any other reason. Are you thinking of it like you think of Imagine? Is that what
maybe? And I don't like that song either.
Yeah, Imagine is low on my list.
Yeah, if John was alive, I'd slap him for that.
I think Bono addressed that one well. When he wrote one, that was a response to Imagine, and he says, "We are all one. We're just not the same."
Yeah.
Agreed.
Well, we get to carry each, so
we have to carry each other. Yeah.
I'll give you one more. I got a couple more, but I think make sure everybody gets their bit in. Elton John. I'm not a huge. I think everything Elton John has done since the mid '80s is garbage. So hate me if you want.
Mostly.
Can you feel the love tonight and all that? No, thank you.
Right.
But '70s. Ooh boy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
That was
hot.
Magic.
I bought a few of them albums.
Pick one. I know it's hard.
Tumbleweed Connection.
Okay.
Great record. And there's a song, Where To Now, St. Peter.
Okay.
I haven't heard that one.
I think it's about a soldier, but I'm not entirely sure. But it goes, so where to now, St. Peter? If it's true, I'm in your hands. I may not be a Christian, but I've done all one man can. I understand I'm on the road where all that was is gone. So where to now, St. Peter? Show me which road I'm on. And I don't know. It's pensive, and it's with, and the lines in there. It was before. Again, I don't want to pick on.
Let's not give Elton credit for the lines.
Okay, Ernie. But it was before everything got poppy with it.
Yeah.
You could take a song like Leave On as well.
Right. Yep.
And just really great music. And but it's funny, these are in the soundtrack of my mind. They're buried in the recesses of my brains, and I could have made a list of 100 and it would have changed by next week.
Yeah.
But I'll leave it out there for now and throw it to someone else.
Okay.
Lopez.
Okay. Well, I got a list here and then some. But
And then some.
But then, I got to go. My number one was Stairway to Heaven, Led Zeppelin. I felt like they set the standard for classic rock with this song, and it's still popular now.
Mm-hmm.
It's big even with these younger kids. But if you haven't heard it, I got to recommend a version that Hart did at the Kennedy Center Awards on YouTube. Check it out. If you haven't seen it, check it out.
It made Jimmy Page cry.
Oh my gosh, she just belted that song out. It's awesome. Worth time to check it out. But like I said, Led Zeppelin with their early on albums, they to me they set the standard, the tone for where the rock was going. Coming in at number 2 was Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody. They took this song and put so much into it, even when their producer says, no, you can't do that. It's not going to work. No, you can't do. They did. They left. They did it, and what a hit they still have with that song. Still
And,
being played all over.
and Leo, one of my favorite things personally about that song is that it kind of gave a renewed connection between myself and my youngest child. So, it's one of those songs that when it came back around, we had another place to connect. We were already pretty musically connected, but that really brought us back together. She bought me a greatest hits album from Queen, vinyl for my turntable this last year for Christmas. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Rio, they I think it was that album cover where they boasted no synthesizers were used in the recording. Yeah, synthesizers creeping into everything, and I don't think they used any synthesizers on that whole record.
Yeah, and with Freddie Mercury, he was ahead of his time. He had this voice. I mean, I know he was out there, but man, he was anointed with this voice and what he could do and how he could sing and just deliver. And so Queen, they got to be in there. And then my next one, big Eagles fan, Hotel California. What a song.
Thank you for saying that correctly.
Of course. Yeah.
I'm an Eagles fan. I'm not a fan of the Eagles. You got to say it the right way. I'm an Eagles fan.
Oh man. Yeah. They I listen to I have a lot of their music. I used to play a lot of their music when I DJ'd because everybody loved the Eagles. They just loved that rock that they delivered. But this
has a unique sound. Yeah.
Yes, that Hotel California was definitely. They had so many huge hits, but that one there came to me right away.
So,
and
one of my lyrics is from them, and I think it's the greatest rock and roll line ever, and it's an Eagles song. So we'll get to that later. But
okay,
I know where you're going with that.
I'm going to go ahead and go to my next song, and that is "Carry On My Wayward Son." And
my son, one of my sons, likes that about the wayward son. Go ahead.
Yeah, and what that song has a serious message to it, and that actually was my first concert. I seen them in Cheap Trick. I was 13, and
Mommy's
and
all
it was
right.
just, and there was one other group there. I thought it was AC/DC, but I can't quite remember. But I know for sure it was Kansas and Cheap Trick. But yeah, their music is still being played, and they were touring. I'm not sure if they might be done now. I don't know.
What's interesting about that album and that song to me is that when we talk about the searching for God, that album's loaded with that, and that was coming right out of Kerry Livgren,
yes,
who is a strong believer, but at that time he was not.
Right,
he was not a believer, and
he was
looking. He was looking for something. Yeah.
Yes, and I really feel like a lot of these groups back then, they were missing something and they were wanting something more, and a lot of them found it. Not all of them, but a lot of them did. So that song there, great group. Like I said, my first concert, it was pretty awesome. And my next one, Leonard Skinner, Freebird. Wow. Just
Man.
that.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
That's Mick Jagger's favorite song.
When you hear that, it's funny because I was just on vacation and we drove down to Florida, and when we came in, oh no, that was another one of their songs. Never mind. the Sweet Home Alabama. Didn't they do that song?
Yeah.
That's right. We were in Alabama.
I think that's Kid Rock.
Yeah.
Well, there's another version. There's a Christian version called "Sweet Home Up in Heaven." So.
Okay. Nice. But that Freebird, the lyrics, the guitar licks, it was just an awesome rocker song.
Hey, Leo.
Yeah.
That smell.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, too, man. They go sonic, eh? It's
Yeah.
really, yeah.
Yeah, they were great. They were great. They were short lived, but they were great. This next group, another one that I seen in concert, and wow, they delivered probably one of the best shows you'll ever see. They're done, but it is Tom Sawyer by Rush.
Okay,
And
yeah, I remember that.
what really, the lyrics, the music, but Neil Peart on the drums. That's one of the best out there, that song. And oh yeah, there's lots, don't get me wrong, a lot of drum performers who did great, but that was one of them that ranks up there definitely in my top 10 as drummers. But just Rush and they're when they did a show, they did a show. They were there to perform the lights, the lasers, and everything. Yeah, they were awesome. And this
Still are.
oh yeah, and they're still being played and jammed all the time. I see the little clips come up all the time with them. My next one, another one of my favorite groups. I've seen them several times. The last time I seen them was actually my last concert in 2019 in Vegas. It was Aerosmith. And from back in the early days when I seen them several times. But Dream On.
I knew you were going there.
You knew I was going there, man. Dream On. They had a dream and they delivered with that dream. And they're still. Oh, Tyler, he doesn't quite. He's getting older now, but man, they just the group in general. They were awesome and loved their music and what they brought to the rock and roll generation. And speaking of that rock and roll generation, these guys are touring right now, and coming in at number 8 is Back in Black by AC/DC. Another group I've seen 3 or 4 times, and I actually got to strum his guitar because back in the day, Angus used to get on Bon Scott's shoulders and come out into the crowd, and I was down there on the floor, and he came by me, and I strummed his guitar. It was great.
I could see you doing that.
I'll never forget it, and so I played in their concert.
Want your autograph when we're done here.
Yeah, and he had me sign his guitar while I was there. Hey, Leo, sign this.
Was
But
that seconds before you were removed by security?
yeah. So, the thing with them, they had, and like I had mentioned earlier about that album, that was the British Import High Voltage, awesome album. And it just, they got to be in there. Coming at number 9, hey, what about Jimi Hendrix? Purple Haze. Oh my gosh. That song there. Now we're going to Woodstock here. but
It's a good one.
Jimmy, he could, very talented left-handed guitarist that could really deliver. And probably his best performance was there at Woodstock when he did the national anthem, and that was just unbelievable.
Yeah,
but I really like
on
that
YouTube. Somebody recorded it. You can see it on YouTube.
Yeah, that Purple Haze. That was an incredible song. And then you can't forget about who? The Who. Right?
The Who. There you can put the in front of it appropriately.
Yeah. The Who, yes. And with Baba O'Reilly. That song was just a rock song, and it was great. So that's my top 10 that I have. But I've got just some honorable mention groups that I could have put them in there easily, but we wanted 10. But I'll just mention the groups: Van Halen, U2, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Beatles, Metallica, Pearl Jam, Pink Floyd, Bob Dylan, Rolling Stones, BTO, and Dire Straits. So
Bachman Turner. Wow.
Yeah.
I like it.
They were a great group. I still remember having their 8-track playing in my 71 Chevelle when we were in high school.
Hey Jim, you're cutting out. Jump in there.
I just say, right now, BTO, you're bringing in the Canadian content, brother.
Yeah.
Hey, they were rockers. They were great. They were awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't bring them in. You could have.
He said he was going to avoid
we wouldn't
that.
have held it against you.
You got Rush in there as well. So.
Well, we're.
Oh yeah.
quiet and diminutive.
I don't see Jim Toon as
make-
being quiet and diminutive.
You make great neighbors. All right.
Well, yeah. What do we get from the life of Tippett? What do you got, Robert?
All right. Well, I'll go down it. I'm going to say this is going to distinguish me from my older brothers here, because I personally, for me, rock music peaked in 1981, and so that's late for a lot of guys. I'm going to say this. Yeah, I know. I'm gonna say this. I didn't understand the significance of the Beatles growing up. It wasn't until I became an adult that I went and I was like, oh, they took us from Buddy Holly to Led Zeppelin. That transition was the Beatles' work that got us to there, and then Led Zeppelin picked it up and took it from there. So once I kind of understood the significance of those things, then you go back and you listen to the music and you're like, okay, I know why this is important. I know what, that was good. So I'm going to say that. The other thing I'm going to note is Steve Hinton. I think you're often drawn to lyric and story, probably musically. That would be my guess. I'm drawn to singers. I like singers. And so oftentimes my first hit is, do I like the singers? It's why to this day, I can listen to every intro to every song by GNR, but once the vocals kick in, I turn it off. Guy can't sing. So I just can't listen to Axl Rose sing. He's not a singer. Great performer, horrible singer. So that's just me. But with that said, I'll give you my number one, which is Brad Delp. And those who know, that would be Boston. And as I noted in my list, you could give me a early Boston album and a box of avocados and stick me on a desert island. I'd be fine. I'd be just fine. That's all.
Another great concert in Boston. Great concert. My one critique of their live shows is that they sound just like the album. And, you kind of want something to be live.
Yeah.
But to Jim's comment earlier about no synthesizers, Tom Scholz is an avid opponent of all things synthesizer. It should be organ, guitars, and drums. So, but my favorites among them, it's hard to pick one because you could give me just about anything off their first three albums and I'd be fine. But Peace of Mind or Foreplay Long Time. Those are probably at the top. So I will always default to Boston. Right. And by the way, that's before 1981, right? So I'll just call that out right now. Van Halen right now, which is going to make a lot of people puke in their mouth because they didn't like when Hagar joined the band. They preferred the Roth era, and I will say that the cover band Van Halen that existed during the David Lee Roth era was fantastic. But I like singers, and again, David Lee Roth, while one of the greatest frontmen in history, is not a singer, and Sammy Hagar is a singer, and so David Lee Roth has about a 6-note vocal range. He can't go higher or lower than that. So he's not much of a singer in my opinion.
He's touring right now over here.
Sure. And don't get me wrong. Great stage act, fantastic front man. You're not going to get me to deny that. He's just not a singer.
Especially for being like 80 years old or however old he is.
Yeah. But Hagar brought real depth and soul to Van Halen, and they started writing their own music for the first time. So I did like that. Right now sticks with me because, and you'll see with these, I have a playlist on Spotify. You can go look for it if you want, but I've been building out for years called Start Me Up, which is all the songs on there are songs that if I put them on, I will get in a good mood listening to them. They, even something as nascent as Gloria Estefan's "Get on Your Feet," that song will pick you up. So, Simple Minds,
Robert. Real quick, Robert, on Hagar. You're right. He's a great singer, and I had seen him in concert before he was with Van Halen. He had great music, and then he still did great music with Van Halen, no doubt.
Yeah, I can appreciate what he brought to the band.
Yeah.
Simple Minds, the song "Alive and Kickin'." Most people would think of their "Don't You Forget About Me," which was not their song. They did that song for the movie
at the request of their management. That song was originally offered to another guy who I think sounds just like Jim Kerr, and that's Billy Idol. And Billy Idol declined the offer to record it. So they did it for the movie, for the Breakfast Club. But Alive and Kicking is their song. And it's one of the reasons why I like it more than Don't You Forget About Me. But both songs are great. So Simple Minds. Jim, for you, because we promised to do this, and I'd love to hear your comments. Dust in the Wind. From Kansas. If we're gonna pick the top 3 real influential rock and roll songs of probably the 70s era, Dust in the Wind's gonna make the top 3. Stairway to Heaven, maybe Bohemian Rhapsody, I'm not sure, but Dust in the Wind's gonna make that top 3. Most people know the story behind the song. I just think Kansas is highly underrated as a band by most people, and if they would stop, they would really be blown away by their music. So there's that. Jim, do you have thoughts on Dust on the Wind that you didn't get to share?
Well, yeah, I do. I think it speaks to everybody. It's a beautiful song. Back when I planted my first church, we were pretty. I guess we had more of a attractional aspect to us, and we covered a variety of secular songs in our Sunday services. That was one of the ones that and everybody knew it. I mean, it might have been their first day ever in a church, right? But everybody. And it speaks.
Yep. Yeah, it's a great song, and while it's a humbling song, humility wise, from a lyrical perspective, it still is upward looking. In its perspective, right? It's not the line from Interstellar. We used to stand and try to find our place among the stars, and now we're sitting looking at where our place is in the dirt. That line from him. Dust in the Wind isn't doing that latter part. It's still looking upward. So I like that.
What's funny is I remember. I had one of my daughters in the car a long time ago, and she was down. So I said, "Hey, I'm gonna make you listen to some dad music," and to, kind of poke her and those times when kids roll their eyes. So I put on a Pandora classic rock station, and that song came on, and she listened a little bit. She goes, "Dad, this song's depressing."
It can be. But it's I think it still has an upward. Yeah, I think it has an upward desire to it. All right, number 5 for me, In the Air Tonight. My first rock and roll concert was Genesis, the Mama Tour. When they had broken out of their prog rock era into their pop rock era. Was one of the very first shows I ever saw. It was still to this day the greatest show I ever saw, because the effects and the things they did that were in the performance I thought were amazing. Not the best concert I've ever been to, but the best show I've ever been to was that one. But In the Air Tonight was kind of a formative song in my high school years for me. So I think that's one of the reasons it had such an impact. I was interested. I don't know if you guys are aware. It hit number 1 on Spotify again about 4 or 5 years ago during COVID.
Really?
Yeah. Some young boys had that do reactions on YouTube.
Yeah.
And they had a very popular following of young youth. Very young people who followed their reactions to old music. And somebody had suggested they pick up this song, and their reaction was over the top. They were totally blown away by this song from beginning to end. And it pushed it on Spotify back up to number 1 for because it was going so viral on YouTube. So
another great drum solo in there too.
Yeah, except for that big drum solo there is actually from a drum machine.
It was still good.
It's great.
Everybody hears that and they know it. It
wasn't Phil Collins playing it originally. It was a Roland drum machine that produced that. It was a standard.
It was perfect. It was perfect for the song.
It really fit. Yeah. Everybody does it. Okay, this one was a little obscure, probably for some people. There was a movie in the early '80s called The Lost Boys. It's about vampires. I love vampirism. I love watching vampire movies, and we can make a joke about my favorite vampire movie called The Dead Poet Society. And we can talk about that one later. But that's a vampire movie if people are unaware. I still believe was the theme song to The Lost Boys. It was by a band called The Call, and then a few years later, Russ Taff did it on his solo album. He covered it. The Call's version of it is great. Russ Taff's cover of it is even better.
So Russ Taff, he does a lot of Christian music, doesn't he?
He was with the Imperials. He was with the Imperials.
Okay.
He was on that first album I bought.
Okay.
Yeah. And he eventually broke out of Christian music because his lifestyle didn't fit it. He was an alcoholic and a drug addict, still doing Christian music, and he couldn't handle that contradiction anymore. Mm-hmm. And then the contradictions in the Christian music business, I think a lot of people aren't aware of. Most of those labels are owned by Warner Brothers, so it was never really Christian music wise. It was always secular, and still is. There's some good testimony of his life because he's still a believer and has really gotten his life in order, but it was a hard slog for him. Russ Taff's a great guy. I put this one in here for a reason. Hit Me With Your Best Shot. Probably not one of my top 10 songs, but I picked that one for a reason. It was for Pat Benatar. So for me, in the pantheon of female rock and roll singers, she is number one for me. I realized that Ann Wilson is really number one, but I was never a Heart fan, so I give it to Pat Benatar.
Another great show, great concert.
Oh, Pat Benatar?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. I don't think I've ever seen her live, but I realize I'm giving Ann Wilson the short shrift there. She's really the greatest ever, but I was just never a big Heart fan. Coming up to the 2000s, and you guys like, this isn't classic rock. Yeah, it is. It's two songs that I would vie for. One is called "Dare You to Move" by Switchfoot.
Okay, I've heard of that. Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, Switchfoot. They have that was coming right at the end of their young angst teenage years when they did that song. But I really like "Dare You to Move" because it's a positive song of, hey, get off your butt and do something. And there's another one by a band called Young the Giant. And it's called "My Body." And the lyrics to that one, I love the singing on it, but the lyrics to that one are also very positive. So I just kind of jammed those together, so pick one. This one also is probably not a top 10 song for me, but I had to put the Commodores in here somewhere. So I chose Easy. I think a lot of people know Easy Like Sunday Morning. I just have a philosophy that if you're down and you put a Commodore song on and it doesn't bring you up, you're really down. You can't be brought up because the Commodores can bring anybody up. So
I'm surprised you didn't put down Brick House with Commodores.
Well, that one will definitely bring you up, but I was not going to go there for this show. Thank you. And then just for me personally, I had to have a Bee Gees in here somewhere.
Staying Alive.
And I don't really care where you pick it in the Bee Gees. I can go all the way back to their very early stuff. I Told a Joke is a great song. But I put How Deep Is Your Love probably because I came of age probably around 1976, 77, and that song was big on the charts. And the Bee Gees get a lot of grief for the disco era, but a lot of people who know music know that disco really doesn't define the Bee Gees very well. It was a moment and an era for them, and it was when they were big and popular, but their music's much bigger than that. A lot of people are unaware that Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton's duet, Islands in the Stream, that's a Bee Gees song. It's not a country song. So that's my top 10. I'm sticking to it.
That's your top 10. Well, so thank you, man, for letting me get into your boat with you. I won't go through all of them. A couple of interesting thoughts. Number one, thank you, Jim. From the get-go, you gave me bandwidth, knowing that I'd probably want to talk some Floyd. Robert, I think you're right. What are we attracted to? And I think the story is a big one for me. There are occasions where I'm listening to a singer and I'm like, the girl for Jefferson Airplane. I forgot her name. White Rabbit. That's not
Grace Slick.
Yeah. Okay. So that's not a big song for me, but her voice in that song, the way it goes on. And I know she was at the deal in New York. But for me, it's a story. A lot of it's a story. And you're right. Pink Floyd's just huge for me. And I think that was one of the things that drew me early on, especially because there was, in my mind, there was a lot of music in the 80s that I thought was just dumb. And when I listened to Floyd, I felt like, okay, these guys are telling a story here. And I had to put Comfortably Numb at the top of my list. Part of it's musically, and it's interesting to know the backstory to that song. Part of it came from when Pink Floyd did a tour for The Dark Side of the Moon. And Roger Waters actually had an anxiety attack or something before their show in Philadelphia. And he had a doctor come out, he gave him a shot of adrenaline or something. And that's the backstory to the part of the song where it's just a little pinprick. And the guitar solo at the very end of it, debatably, in my mind, it's got to be one of the best guitar solos of all, where David Gilmour just goes on with that. But Comfortably Numb. I wrote an article for a journal one time, a letter you can find it at renew.org, a letter to the discouraged man. And there's this line that says, "The child has grown, the dream has gone, and I have become comfortably numb." And that's not a good thing, but I think that's a picture of so many men. Yeah, we've got to a place, and it's like, this is it. Just push through it. I put "Wish You Were Here" on that. The actual song, not just the album itself. And I know the history they were thinking about to what their founder, Syd Barrett, but there's a lot of meaning in that. I like the Boxer, Simon and Garfunkel, "Paint It Black" by the Stones. Again, it's not that I agree, hey, this is good, but it's just a picture of what's going on in society. The Beatles, "Yesterday." And I liked when we were talking about the history. I think Jim and Robert, you're right. There's this connection between the 50s and the 60s and a lot of the early Beatles stuff. I think my aunt referred to it as bubblegum music.
Bebop.
One time. Bebop, yeah. It just really happy. And so "Yesterday" is it's melodic, it's good, makes you think. I remember there was a movie that came out 6-7 years ago called "Yesterday." And if you know any Beatles music, you're going to know there are these lines, all throughout the movie that are just really good. I like "The Summer of '69," but I was born in '69, so that's it.
I saw him live at the Dallas Convention Center the week that went number one.
Oh,
another
really?
Canadian artist there, Jim.
There we are.
My girlfriend was mad because I bought tickets to see him when he came to Dallas the second time on that tour. And I told her, hey, I got us tickets to go see Bryan Adams. And it was the week that her and her family were going to the Bahamas, and she was mad because she wasn't going to be able to go with me. And I was like, you can have the tickets. I will go with your family to the Bahamas. But it was the greatest concert I've been to yet.
Wow. You may not remember this, and I don't know if Leo does either, but sometime during COVID, Robert, you rewrote the lyrics to that song. And there's a line that, they start this band and, they tried real hard, but somebody left and then somebody got married. And you rewrote that, hey, Steve left and Leo got buried. And Leo's like, what? And that was just funny to hear the way, we mess with these lines. Time Time from the Dark Side of the Moon. It makes me think of Ecclesiastes. I run and I run to keep up with the sun, but it's sinking. It made me think of the book of Ecclesiastes in the Bible. I mentioned.
Sorry,
I'm not
gonna let you pick Time as a top 10 song. It's the one.
This is my list. Song. This is my list.
Thought he was leaving for sure. He was done.
It's the one Floyd song I cannot stand. I turn the radio off anytime it comes on. I hate that song.
Now, Steve, I got a question for you. Is Floyd the only group that you picked your songs
I only mentioned three.
That's like three too many.
Time.
Well, we know the haters, we know the lovers, and that's okay.
No, I'm taking on you.
By God's grace here.
Hey, quick question for you, Steve. It's mostly Roger Waters' record, I think, but anything from the final cut?
That's interesting. I did have the final cut. And I didn't remember a lot of it, but a few weeks ago, Debbie and I, my brother and his wife, went to see a group called Brit Floyd, which has got to be the largest cover band for Pink Floyd. And they did a song called Two Suns in the Sunset. And I thought, I know this song, but I don't know it. And it took me the next day to figure out, but that's a song. It has a very much of a Cold War feel, very much of doom and gloom feel. But when you come to the history, final cut, it was like in Roger Waters' mind, and Steve Hinton commentary on Waters, he's just an arrogant jerk. It's all about him. But that is the final. This was it, and he's done. But the rest of the band were thinking, well, we're not done. But what about you? You seem to like that album.
Yeah, it's you're right about the Cold War. Once this, and it was recorded at the time of the Falklands War.
Oh, yeah.
Margaret Thatcher, Ronald Reagan. So there was a bit of a conservative sweep. Even in Canada, we had a guy named Brian Mulroney, and I mean that really bugged Roger Waters a lot. But I think it's an awesome record. But it's all of Roger Waters' anxiety rolled up. A lot of anxiety, man. But it's got some tasty songs on it.
Yeah, and I appreciate your saying again. I think balance that we want to be men of God. We want to find our identity in God, and if we dive too far down this rabbit hole, I'm thinking White Rabbit, Jefferson Airplane. If we dive too far down, and that's all we're feeding on, it's going to take us in a bad direction. But if we pull too far away from it, we're going to lose sight of what's going on in the world.
Well, then pride and arrogance kicks in, and
yeah, and I like what you said earlier, Robert, about the Psalms in the Old Testament, that they really were, in a sense, songs of praise or God. I mean, think about David. God, this stinks. Do something about it.
Go read the imprecatory Psalms and how many times David starts off with almost vulgar things to say.
Yeah.
If we didn't sanitize it in our English translation, you would be appalled at what David's really getting at. And he always ends up in the right place. And the reason is because the effort of confessing will lead you to a better place. And I think a lot of music does that. It makes confession, and it can take you to a better place when you're willing to lay that out there.
Well, I think of Ecclesiastes 3, can't remember the verse, where Solomon talks about the fact that God has planted eternity in our hearts. So even these people who wrote these songs, there's something in there, and they're reaching out for something, but they don't know what it is. And I think we can see that in the music. But to your point, Leo, if I've got only 10, number 8 was Creedence, Clearwater Revival. Have you ever seen the rain?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Creedence did a lot of good stuff. And then number 10 for me, and I thought about this. One of you guys said earlier, it just, songs that come back, and this is going to sound weird, But track with me, especially, my vocation. My first vocation is a pastor, a preacher, preach at a church. This may sound weird, but a song that comes up is California Girls by the Beach Boys. And that was one of those, happy songs. And, you may think, Steve's talking about girls and wow, it's bad. Well, not really. I think if I were to pull some theology out of this, it comes back to creation. The man identity. This is who we are as men, but we are part of God's creation. There's the feminine side, and I think in our culture today, there's a lot of toxic war against manhood, but there's also some toxicity against women as well. And we do not want to materialize women. We want to lift them up. We want to hold them up. We want to support them, embrace them. But at the same time, there's this reality of beauty. And I remember thinking about this when I was preparing for a sermon over marriage in California about 20 years ago, that I believe every woman is beautiful. And sometimes the only thing they have to do to be beautiful is just smile. So when I hear California Girls, it's not this fleshly, hey, I'm comparing it, but it's more of, there's this beauty of God's creation. There's this beauty in me as a male created in God's image. And then there's this beauty in my wife and your wives created in God's image. So that's a long sermonette. If you want a refund, just go to the customer service desk and we'll get you one.
Fill out this form.
Yeah. So we're the runway's in sight here. We're getting close. Why don't we do a bonus round? Just a quick round. Why don't we go in the same order and maybe do this a couple times? Throw out a lyric. Just throw out a lyric and see who's the first one that can say, okay, that's from this song, and then maybe album or whatever. But give us a lyric, Jim.
Oh man. Okay. Yeah, let me tell you how it will be.
I don't know that.
There's one for you, 19 for me.
Oh, yeah. I know the line.
What is it, Lopez? I know.
I know that line.
I know it, but I don't know it.
It's a good line. I know that line.
It's Beatles.
Yeah, it's Beatles.
Taxman.
Got it.
Okay. Way
I
to
get
go.
1 point.
Way to go. Good. Yeah.
Leo.
Okay. Then she made me say things I didn't want to say. Then she made me play games I didn't want to play. Name that song.
Yeah, that's a good line.
Doom, 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 doom.
I'm clueless. That's why you guys are much more
It's
amazing than me.
It's not a Rod Stewart song, is it?
No.
Okay, good. No, it's AC/DC, isn't it?
It is AC/DC.
Yes, it is. It is AC/DC. Yeah.
What, you doing Googling it?
No, I'm just where it's reflecting for me.
It's going to be hard for you to pick out. Because
I don't have a clue.
It's actually one that I had mentioned earlier off of the British Import album, High Voltage, and the song is called Soul Stripper.
Okay.
I've heard the title.
I threw it in there because I knew it would be very hard to get, but you did guess the band, and that's great because they had a lot of stuff, but that was the early AC/DC British Import. So good job, Robert.
Okay. All right. I at least got the band. All right.
Yeah, that's great.
All right. So I'm going to ask Jim to give everybody a chance on this one. Glittering prizes and endless compromises shatter the illusion of integrity. It's one of my favorite lines to quote.
Yeah, I'm not there.
Is that a Rush song?
It is a Rush song.
I know it, but I can't remember it.
All right, Jim, you want to take a shot?
Oh no, the title's escaping me. Now.
Hold on a second. Say the lyric one more time.
I'll give it to you rhythmically. How about that? Glittering
Well, I think
prizes,
I have it.
glittering prizes and endless compromises shatter the illusion of integrity. Yeah. Here's what's interesting to me is when I put it in the AI, it got the band and got the wrong song and the wrong album.
Wow.
You know, playing modern music and still be open-hearted.
Yep. Yep. You got it.
What do I got?
Spirit of Radio.
Yeah.
From Permanent Waves. Yeah. It's one of my favorite lines from Neil Peart.
I knew the line, but I was drawing a blank on the song, but I knew it.
One likes to believe in the freedom of music, but glittering prizes and endless compromises shatter the illusion of integrity. Yeah.
Okay. I am leaving, but the fighter still remains.
Oh,
Boxer.
yeah. That's the Boxer.
Yeah. Give us another one, Jim. Let's do one more.
For many hours and days that pass ever soon, the tides have caused the flame to dim.
I've heard it.
Yeah, I know the line. Now I'm trying to place it.
Yeah, so you got the rhythm of it. You got the right.
Mm-hmm.
For many hours and days that pass ever soon, the tides have caused the flame to dim.
Sing it.
It's not Procol Harum, is it?
The arm is straight, the hand to the loom.
Oh.
Is this the end? Or
Yeah.
Got me.
Is it the Doors?
no, it's Zeppelin.
It's Zeppelin. Okay, it is Zeppelin. Okay.
Now, we haven't talked about the Doors. Well, that guy was messed up.
Great organ music, though.
What is it, Jim?
It's All of My Love.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
All of My Love. And that record has some. I don't think it's the best Zeppelin. It's Through the Outdoor, right?
Yeah.
But that song is. It's got a little throwback vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I had that album too.
Yeah.
All right, Leo.
Okay. I think you guys will get this one. So I'm trying to go too hard on you. The world is, love and life are deep.
Sawyer, Rush.
Yeah. Yep. So, Jim, I don't know.
I
if
went
you've ever heard
easy.
this
I told
before.
you I went easy.
Jim, I don't know. I don't know if you've ever heard this before, but I believe there's three kinds of people in the world. There are those who absolutely love Rush. There are those who absolutely hate Rush, and there are those who think Tom Sawyer is a really cool song. So,
Oh,
Yeah, well, hey, I kind of feel you.
yeah, I love them. So, and those who don't like Geddy Lee singing don't understand singing. So, all right, my turn, I guess. It's also should be easy. I think all three of you should be able to drop this. I think it's the greatest line ever written in rock and roll music. What I would be interested to know is not only the song and the artist, but I'd also like to see if you know who the writer is. And the line is, it's a girl, my lord, in a flatbed Ford slowing down to take a look at me.
Eagles, I knew you were going there. That's all I know. I just know that it was written by two guys, the Eagles.
Yeah,
Tucson. No, not Tucson.
take it easy.
Take it easy. Yeah.
By the Eagles. Glenn Frey.
By Eagles. There's no the. So the line was written by Glenn Frey. The song was written by Jackson Brown.
Well, I was pretty darn close.
Yeah, Take It Easy is a Jackson Brown song. He was subletting the basement of the house that Glenn Frey and J.D. Souther were renting. And he would get up in the morning and make a pot of coffee and go sit at the piano and work on lyrics all day. And it drove Glenn Frey crazy because Glenn Frey was up all night playing at the club. And so he needed some sleep. And there's constant repetition of trying to figure out a line and a melody. And Jackson Brown was stuck on standing on a corner in Winslow, Arizona, such a fine sight to see. And he couldn't figure out where to go. And Glenn Frey had enough, and he got up and went in there and said, "It's a girl, my lord, in a flatbed Ford slowing down to take a look at me." And that's how he gets writing credit on the song, is for that line. But in that line, he gets girls, God, and cars in one line.
I remember you saying that. I remember hearing that.
If he had drugs in there, he would have the entire rock and roll theme, right?
That came later.
Okay, I'll finish this up. I'll land the plane here. Did you exchange the walk-on part in a war for the lead role in a cage?
Wish you were here. Pink Floyd.
Pink Floyd.
Say it again. Say it again, Jim. It's Floyd. What song?
Wish You Were Here.
Wish You Were Here. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you exchange the walk-on part in a war for the lead role in a cage? And they're just that kind of an introspective type thing. So, men, this has just been a blast. I want to give you one last question, which you are not prepared, but in your imagination, if you were in a situation, you had a young man sitting in front of you right now, 16 to like 26, young man, and you can only give him one piece of advice, what would it be?
I have very little battery left, so maybe I should go first.
You go first.
Yeah, I'm not sure how deep this is, but I was driving in my car yesterday, and we're talking about all these songs like Dust in the Wind today, and I just thought about contentment, and I realized that if I have great contentment in my life, God gave me that, but it revolves around two things. I got a good woman. So get a good woman. I got something to do every day. So get something wild to do. Something you put your heart in. And then take big chances for God and just let it plays out, man. God, a good woman, and something worthy to do. That's what it's all about to me. Yeah. Maybe Robert can write that one.
I bet he could. Leo, you got a young man. You can only say one thing. What is it?
Well, do you know Jesus?
There you are.
If you don't, let me help you. Let me try to get you there. Because with him, you'll be unstoppable, and without him, you'll be lost.
Robert?
Yeah, it would be hard to stick to one. I'm going to assume he's a young believer. How about that?
That'll work.
At that point, I'm going to say to him, the woman of your dreams is not real. So look for the woman of your prayers.
That means we got to pray. Yeah, we're going to do an episode on prayer. Well, men, thank you very much. I guess I got to do one. So if I'm talking to a young man, I would say, find your identity in Christ, and your best days are yet to be. So, men, thank you very much. I just excited for what, and I want to have you all back on again sometime. So, men, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Well, Steve, I kind of had a blast listening to these guys talk about it, and I'll tell you why. So, it is what was interesting to me is to see the feelings that y'all kind of went through talking about these different time periods in your life, and how you were just feeling and what you were going through in these different periods of your life, and how this music impacted you during those. What's interesting is that, like I said before, is how music impacts people. And I think that's deeply, and it's something that actually stuck out a lot to me that y'all talked about, was kind of how in a lot of these lyrics of secular music, you can see this longing, this like looking upward type, feel like they're looking for something to fill that void, and how a lot of these men that you talk about, a lot of these artists did eventually find that, but some didn't, unfortunately. So I think that's and that's something I've kind of looked at in the music that I listen to, because I've stopped listening to a lot of the old metal bands I used to listen to. I mostly listen to a lot of Christian metal bands. And to all the viewers, if you like metal, I've got like a 200 something music playlist, 200 something song playlist of some Christian metal. But I can still look back and appreciate and see where there's almost not Christian themes, but themes of like this longing for something, or you could tell that they were influenced by Christianity at some point in their life, and it was just like you can tell there's always this longing in music, in that music for something greater. So it was just interesting that y'all talked about that too and touched on it with music, back in your era as well. So I like that a lot.
Yeah, there's this inner, and I love the way Solomon talks about it in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, that God has planted eternity in our hearts. And the creativity is this one way that we're searching for something deep, even though we don't really know what it is, but there's this searching. And when you think about the trend, and the guys talked a little bit about that, just, the transition from, and we didn't go back to, the 20s and the 30s and the 40s, but there was definitely this transition between the early 60s into the late 70s of people searching for deeper meaning. And part of that is because so much meaning had been removed from the world. The world views have changed, so people are still searching for something, and you can see some of that in the lyrics and the feel and the moods of the songs.
It's actually really interesting that you mentioned Ecclesiastes and how God has put eternity in the hearts of man, because that was a line in a song that I listened to whenever I was like first feeling this transformation going on in my life and my heart. And I was like, okay, that sounds scriptural. A lot of his lyrics are from scripture. So I went looking for where that was in the Bible, and I found it in Ecclesiastes. And I grew up Christian, like I was a Christian, but I don't really think I was a Christian, looking back. And so I never really read my Bible growing up, like at all. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to dive in. I don't know where I'm going to read, but I remember that scripture. I looked up where it was in Ecclesiastes. I was like, okay, well, I think this is such a weird and profound thing I'm reading here. Like, I want to know what this means, and I want to know where this is at. There's got to be more gold in here like this. So I started reading Ecclesiastes, and I was like, it spoke to me. I was like, wow, this is amazing. I need to read more of this. So that's what really got me into reading the Bible itself, was that song. So I think it's just impactful, like how much music, starting from music, has impacted my life because of how much scripture has impacted my life,
Right. And I don't think people realize how much scripture permeates our culture today. There are so many pieces of scripture that have been paraphrased or whatever, but if you go back 200 or 300 years, it was just all throughout our culture, and we're still receiving the ripple effects of that today.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's funny that I can't remember which one of the guys said it, that said the music basically peaked at 1981, and then it was never good after that, or rock was never good after that.
Yeah, that's funny, because I said earlier too that I just, I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and I remember thinking, boy, there's just not a lot of good modern songs in the 80s. But that's probably just my opinion.
Yeah. I think what's interesting too, because I can relate to this. They said that before rock got poppy, and I've thought about that today. When I was in high school, I could not stand poppy music. I still don't like poppy music. I like the more somber, makes you think, question things, makes you feel things, and like it's like this like the music that's longing for something is what impacts me. And I think that was I still can't remember who said this one either, but who said that you like to the storytelling, the lyrics.
Right. Yeah. Robert talked about it, and I think he's right. How do you judge what a good song is? Are we talking about the lyrics or whatever? And Robert said that, and I believe he's right, that I'm usually looking for the story. What's going on? What's in the heart, in the mind? Why are they writing this? Why are they singing? What is the storyline? And that probably drove some of my listening to hear something more than just, hey, girls are pretty and rock's great, and
Right. Yeah.
wanting to hear a story somehow in it.
Yeah, I think I could really relate to you. So I might have, if I grew up in that era, I probably would have loved Pink Floyd too. Since apparently that was they accused you of having all top 10 of your.
They ragged on me.
Yeah, they ragged on you about the Pink Floyd. But yeah, so I assume I honestly have never really listened to Pink Floyd. I know maybe one song I've heard my mom sing or joke about or something, but I assume I probably would have liked Pink Floyd as well. So yeah, I thought that was pretty funny that they ragged on you about that a lot. Another thing that was pretty interesting to me that I never really even knew was a concept because I grew up, in like first in my life, I think I'm in this weird middle stage because I grew up in the 90s, and so the internet blew up, early 2000s. So that's when everything changed. And so since the internet's come out, everything's just been changing so rapidly. But before then, obviously, the radio. But in my current modern era of when I really started listening to music, I've always had the ability to just stream whatever I wanted, on Spotify.
Right.
So when Leo, right, that talked about the British import Led Zeppelin, or was it AC/DC? Yeah. So that was an interesting concept to me. I was like, he had to, I didn't even think that somebody would have to order some kind of music that they didn't even have in the US. Why wouldn't they just release all those songs?
Right.
So it was just like a funny kind of thing to me.
Right. And Jim kind of touched on it too when he talked about record stores. I mean, I can, in my mind's eye, I can remember going to a mall, and every mall would have a record store in it, and you can go in there and you can flip through all these vinyl albums, and then they had the cassette tapes later on. And if you wanted something, you had to go to a record store, or you had to mail in a check. There is no internet, and you can't really make phone calls either. So Leo probably had to go to a record store, and he probably had to say, hey, there's this album, and somebody had to pull out a book and find out where this is. And then Leo had to pay for it. And then this person had to cut a check and order it from wherever. And it would come first from England to the store, and then Leo would get it. And today, you're right. It's online. I get it. So there's this whole process that's missing.
Yeah. I mean, in today's culture, I feel like if it took that long to get an album, there'd ought to be another new album that everybody's listening to. But yeah, no, I thought that was pretty cool. I wonder if the guy who ordered it had ever heard of that album and ordered one for himself after hearing that.
I don't know, but I bet it's worth something today.
Probably, it probably is. Probably a lot more rare. But yeah, I thought that was really kind of like a different universe almost to me. So, but it's crazy to think that was not that long ago. Well, I know that this is a more lighthearted episode. We don't have a lot of depth of topics to really kind of discuss and go over. But I know every single week we do this, you got a couple challenges for the viewer. So what are those today?
Okay. Well, the first one is so easy, so easy. Matthias, I want to challenge you and challenge our listeners to think about the episode, replay it or whatever, and think about one or two songs that were listed, that Jim or Leo or Robert or myself, here's a song title. Remember, we went through at least the top 10 favorite songs, and look that song up and listen to it. Every now and then on YouTube, you'll see some young people who will listen to songs and record their responses. And I've seen a couple of those, and it's kind of funny to think, A, what you mean you've never heard of this?
Right.
And then B, they listen to it and they're like, oh my goodness, I had no idea.
Yeah.
So the first challenge is really pretty simple. Just note one or two of the songs that we talked about in the episode, and then just go listen to it. If you want to email us your response or put it on Facebook or TikTok or X or whatever. If you do that, though, make sure you say, hey, I heard about this from the man.
Make sure you tag us. Make sure you tag us.
Give us a shout out. And, but there is a serious challenge as well. So Matthias, in the episode here, Matthias, this really wasn't just four older guys shooting the breeze, talking about old songs.
Yeah.
That was there. That was fun. I enjoy the episode so much. I know that the other three guys did. I know you enjoyed listening to it, but really, what was it about? It was about stories. I mean, each one of these songs had a story attached to it. This was happening in my life. This was happening in my life. This is what was going on, and this is why it was going on. For example, Jim asked me about the final album that Pink Floyd did when Pink Floyd was together with Roger Waters and David Gilmour. It was called The Final Cut, and Jim asked me about that. And I made the comment about one of their songs called Two Suns in the Sunset. What is all that about? Well, the immediate part of that, he's talking about a nuclear explosion. We don't think a lot about that today. Well, when did that come out? That came out in the early 80s.
Yeah.
And that was during what we know as the Cold War with the Soviet Union and in America. And it wasn't an ongoing war, but it was this constant tension.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that was, that was going on before, I hit the earth, but I was still alive. I was still in elementary school, junior high, and high school when the Cold War was still going. So the point being, sometimes young men may think, well, those older guys don't know what stress is. Well, actually they do.
It just looks different.
It just looks different. Now here's the point. Here's the challenge. Go ahead.
I think there's an important thing to take from Ecclesiastes. It says there's nothing new under the sun.
Exactly. Beautiful, Matthias. Spot on.
So I think it's just we all feel that stress. We've all gone. That's why was kind of the point of I was emphasizing about the different, even though they're different mediums of music and how we've listened and kind of what it's been. It's the same things in different generations. We all are impacted in a certain way by it. So I think that was the kind of the underlying theme there of there's nothing new under the sun. So I think it was interesting that you brought up the time period, like what impacted those lyrics? Well, it was the tension, that stuff that was going on. So I thought that was,
It's interesting. We both mentioned Ecclesiastes, and I'm going off my plan. I'm redirecting from the challenge, but I'm even thinking about a Pink Floyd song called "Time," which I mentioned that. It was funny if you were watching the video. Robert Tippett threw up his hands, and I don't like this. But there are these lyrics about you run and you run to catch up with the sun, but it's sinking, and you're closer to death, and one day closer to death, and out of breath, and all. So it had this Ecclesiastes feel about it, even though they didn't know God. But back to the challenge. So, and I mean this, listeners. I mean this, guys. Here's the challenge for you. What did we do for the past hour or so? We listened to the stories of some older guys through the question of, hey, tell me about your music. The challenge would be sometime this week. I want to challenge you, young men, to go find a group of older men and just sit down and say, hey, can I listen? And maybe something as simple as this. Let's say you're in McDonald's and you got an extra 15 minutes and you see 4 or 5 veterans, maybe they've got Vietnam hats on, and you just walk over and say, hey, I just want to thank you for your service. Can I sit here and just listen to your stories? I'm not going to get in your way. If you do ask questions, make sure it's not an agenda-driven question. It's just a question like, tell me more about that, or how did you feel about that? But you think about history, men, okay? Before the internet, before the past several decades, the past 100 years, we did this. We would have men who would sit around the campfire or whatever, and younger men would want to get in there and here's what's going on. We don't do that anymore. So part of the challenge is to young men, just go find a group of older men and be quiet and just sit and listen. And that's another reason to be part of a local body of Christ, a church. Find some older men. And, you may not agree with everything, but again, they've been on this planet longer than you have. And I'm glad that you touched on it, Matthias. You may think, man, nobody understands. Well, they may not understand the specifics of what you're going through, but they know what it is to live in turbulent times.
Yeah.
People are upset about the war between Russia and Ukraine today, which I get it. They should be, but let's not pretend this is the first time this has ever happened.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about men who were living, who were alive in 1968, 1969, when the Tet Offensive happened in Vietnam and things got really bad. Talk to men who are still old enough to remember the Korean War. Talk to, if you're really young, talk to people who were there on September 11th, the day that the towers went down, and hear their stories, because as you hear those stories, men, that will help you be strong. That will help you draw some courage out of their experience. So
Yeah.
what we did tonight was just fun. It was just lighthearted, but the real lesson is there are stories there, and what can we learn from those stories?
Yeah. Yeah. Because these men, yeah, like you said, they've been on this planet a long time. And I know that when I was younger, I was like, oh, parents don't know anything about, the teenage angst. So,
Mhm.
obviously looking now, I'm like, well, they probably did know a lot more than than I thought they did. So, in my young years of being 31 now, I would say, yes,
You're
I think
doing a
it's,
good job, Matthias. You're doing a good job.
thank you. I think that's a pretty good challenge to do. And like you said, like we talked about in Ecclesiastes, there's nothing new under the sun. I think the modality of listening to these stories has changed, but I think there is something different about getting back to the aspect of being a part of that conversation and being there and listening to those stories rather than listening to like a podcast of these men,
Mhm.
be a part of
Yeah,
it, be
yeah.
there.
Get into a situation, Matthias, where you are eyeball to eyeball.
Yeah.
That you can see the man, you can see his expressions, you can see how he might get excited, he might get sad, he might, and there's always a story behind that.
Yeah.
And can we hear the stories without making judgments? Just hear the stories and then saying, okay, God, what can I learn from this story?
Mhm.
And then praising them for keeping on, and then take the challenge to hang tough yourself.
I like that. You always tell me to hang tough at the end of
There
your
you are.
emails.
There
Hang
you are.
tough, which it always does. It makes me feel very encouraged. Like, oh, that's a little seed encouragement right there.
That's a man encouragement.
That is. It is. I appreciate it. So I think that was a pretty good episode. It's lighthearted and fun, like you said. Though it's important to hear these conversations, hear that wisdom, hear the stories we can get out, and what can we learn from those. So I think it's a fun episode just to listen and be a part of. So. Well, everybody, thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate y'all joining the Man Identity. Help this channel grow, help this podcast grow. Make sure to like, subscribe on YouTube. Make sure to follow us on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is,
Yeah.
I think, pretty much everywhere. So thank you all for listening and stay strong.
Be strong.
Be strong. That's what it is. Be strong.
Be strong.